David Menzies for Rebel News here in Windsor, Ontario. And folks, I'm at the Ambassador Bridge. That is the international border crossing from Ontario to Michigan. And it is also, well, I guess the scene of the crime, if you will. You might recall last month we brought you the horrible story of Colin Grey, 63, of Windsor, Ontario. He was detained at this bridge by a border agent. Her name is Officer Grelot, badge number 61475. And it was on the suspicion that he was impaired. But that was not the case at all. He hadn't had a drop to drink that day, or for several months, as I understand from his family. But he was suspected of being a drunk driver, when in fact what he needed was life-sustaining medication that was allegedly denied to him. That is according to the eyewitness at the scene at the time. That would be his son, Christian Grey. Now, you might recall we reached out to his now widow, Rose Grey, and Christian a few weeks ago. Here's an excerpt of what they had to say.
He obeyed the law and showing, but they never listened. They failed. This officer failed my husband. He failed the rights to take away everything from him, and they cost his life.
I wish my father was still here. They took away my father, and I didn't have a chance to say goodbye.
Now, of course, I have reached out to the Canadian Border Services Agency, and yet again, it's a matter of, due to privacy and confidentiality, they can't comment on what happened. What do you mean you can't comment? Colin Grey is now dead. Whose privacy and confidentiality are you protecting? Probably Agent Grelot, I would say, who was either incompetent or vindictive, or a combination of the two. And that's why we have come here. It's to track down this agent, get her side of the story, but it's not forthcoming. We've been told by the CBSA here that I have to go through their website. I've already done that, so they're not interested in giving their side of the story. And there's some big questions that have to be answered. You see, eventually, the Windsor Police Service were called. They had Mr. Grey blow into a breathalyzer, but they didn't believe he was trying hard enough. He tried 3 times, but they couldn't get an accurate reading. Again, this had to do with his compromised health, not that he was trying not to breathe into it. Off he went in a cruiser, handcuffed to Windsor Police Headquarters. And after being detained for several hours, he died. He was released, and within seconds of his release, Mr. Grey perished. Cause of death, a heart attack. Now, much like the CBSA, the Windsor Police Service is saying nothing, at least to me, but that's par for the course. They have an entire media relations team. They never even acknowledge our request for comment, and we're going to pay them a visit later on today as well. And really, I get the vibe that the cover-up begins. CBSA isn't speaking, Windsor Police isn't speaking, and the Special Investigations Unit of Ontario, incredibly, is also not speaking. They released a public statement that this was out of their jurisdiction. How is that? When there is a death in police custody, that is their jurisdiction. That is their bailiwick. You can check out their protocols on the SIU's website. They can't wash their hands of this either. Well, I can tell you, we're not going to sleep until we get some answers in terms of what happened on that day, Friday, November the 29th. And other groups are coming to the aid of the Grey family, and that would include the Black Council of Windsor, Essex. And in a press release, they put out 5 specific questions, and they're good questions, and so far they remain unanswered. Number 1, when attention was brought to the fact that Mr. Grey suffers from type 2 diabetes, why was this information ignored? 2, why were accommodations not provided to Mr. Grey as outlined in the Ontario Human Rights Code immediately upon the disclosure of his diabetes? 3, was Mr. Grey informed about his right to seek legal advice as he was transferred to police custody? 4, why was he detained for so long, 4 hours in CBSA and 2 in WPS custody? And finally, 5, why was the Special Investigations Unit so quick to dismiss this case and determine it as outside of their jurisdiction when the gentleman collapsed and died immediately after release from police custody? These are all excellent questions. I have a few of my own. We're not getting anywhere here, folks, unfortunately, so let's go to Windsor Police Service headquarters. I'm not hopeful of getting any answers there either, but at least we're reaching out. Let's see what the Windsor Police have to say about an unnecessary tragedy that occurred due to a man making a routine border crossing. It's absolutely outrageous, shameful, and egregious. Well, folks, I just paid a visit to Windsor Police Service headquarters, and lo and behold, the lights are on, but nobody's home. Certainly nobody home in the communications department. And really, it's a bit of a moot point for other stories regarding Windsor Police. We've been reaching out for a couple of years, and nobody in communications relates to the media, or at least certain media. So at least we tried to get their side of the story. But like I said, the cover-up has already begun. Where is the transparency in terms of what happened to Colin Grey? We know he was held in this facility for a few hours. We know that on this very sidewalk, as he walked to a taxi cab, he fell dead of a heart attack. A police officer tried to revive him with CPR. It was fruitless. And we just want to find out what's going on. We are not getting any answers. It is a cloak of secrecy has descended upon the case of Colin Grey. And I'm very sorry, but the motto for the Windsor Police Service is honor in service. Where is the honor here? If you have a side of the story that you want to get out there, tell it. Don't hide. But that is what the brass and the communications arm of the Windsor Police Service does on a de rigueur basis. Again, outrageous and egregious. We're going to be like a dog with a bone on this story, folks. We're going to continue to dig for the answers as to why a man making a routine border crossing ended up dead. It's absolutely despicable. For Rebel News, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Folks, I know you love it when Rebel News brings you the other side of the story, but the fact is we don't get a nickel's worth of Justin Trudeau's media slush fund money, nor would we accept it if ever offered. But can you help us out? Can you go to rebelfieldreports.com? That's rebelfieldreports.com. And if you're able to, kindly make a donation.